Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Political No Brainer, the podcast where we move past winner takes all of politics and into real conversation. And no better person, David Deighton, to jump right into and get out of the scope of winner takes all politics and get into the scope of just fun conversation with the topic being politics, which is not always considered fun. David engages people in public arena and public open speech places like national parks. So David is an artist, an educator, a father, and a world traveler. So he's got lots of experience. So David, tell us all about what you do, your artwork, how you set up, what parks you've been to, and all that.
Wow, right on. Okay. So for the last 6 years, I've been trying to explore ways for us to be able to talk to strangers about a taboo subject like politics, and not for it to grow into some confrontation. How do we do that face to face without confrontation, without getting into arguments? And I put together 3 questions that some people help me with, especially specifically linguists, to bring into the public arena. And I've chosen free speech areas, like going to national parks. They got these spaces that are open if you want to, you're in a conservation movement or you're part of some church or something and you want to share the word. I go to those spaces and I set up an art installation and I invite people to come and interact with it. But at its core, we talk politics and I record their voices, we talk about it and all this stuff. And I've been exploring that. And it's been a big surprise because there hasn't been any confrontation, which I totally expected there to be. And so I've been going to, in the US, I live in the West, I live in New Mexico. So I've been going from Yosemite to Yellowstone to Grand Canyon to all our national parks around us, to national monuments, as well as trying also in public parks in big cities, and also experimenting in places where it's not very welcome, like a street corner in Manhattan when people are busy and got places to go. That doesn't work.
It
So
didn't work, right?
oh, that doesn't work, right? People are busy. Like, what the heck are you doing here? But if it's in the right place, it tells me that space is important when you're having these type of conversations, right? And your attitude as well. And one main thing is listening, right? That's been my big journey, frankly, is learning to listen to what other people are saying rather than trying to anticipate what I'm going to say from in response to what they're saying, or to counteract what they're saying, or to prove them wrong or whatever. I let them just say what they have to say because it's politics. A lot of people never get a chance to say what they want to say to an actual person. They go online, they press likes and dislikes and hearts or whatever, but they don't get a chance to do it in person. So I give them that chance.
So let's do like a mock-up, if you will. Let's say I'm walking
Okay.
through Yosemite National Park. It's me.
Yeah.
And I'm interested you and I say hi. I just say I introduce myself. Hey, I'm Coach Chippy. What you're David. Let's go. What would be the first question you would ask me, or all three if one at a
Yeah.
time?
So you would probably drop by because I've got like 2 chairs that are empty. And one that has a sign on it that says Republican and the other one says Democrat, and they're empty. And you're going, what's this? Hey, Dave, what's this about? Right. And rightfully so. And you would probably describe how you feel about it. Like, this is something that resonates with me. I get it. People are talking with one another. Those chairs are empty. So what? Right. So I said, I got these 3 questions and I'm going to ask them I'm going to share them with you now. And I'll probably be recording your voice with a mic as well. So I'm asking permission that I can record your voice. And you're going to say, okay. And I'm going to ask you your name and your first name, where you're from, just to kind of get it going. And then I'm going to ask you, how would you describe the political system of the United States of America?
So I would describe it as very money oriented. I think special interests have full control of the system, and that's something I'm looking to change. That's something I'm looking to work on to get people empowered, more and more people empowered. And I would go on, but I can go on and on, but I would be like, I don't know what chair I would sit in. I would quiz you on that. Is this going to be a debate? Or are you going to go around the park and find if I sit in a Republican, are you going to go around the park and find a Democrat? But I would say my biggest concern is money controls the system. And then we don't really get what we were looking for. We've lost all faith in our candidates because they get elected by campaigning to our hopes and dreams and our aspirations. But then the minute they get in office, they reach out to those people that are donating big money and see what they really want. They lose contact with me, the guy they met on the street and supported them.
Second question is, describe your feelings or reactions to the current state of US politics.
Well, I have several feelings on it. One, it's in
Mm.
total disarray. It's contentious. But it's also, as the old saying goes, never waste a good crisis. We're in a time where we can really grow from this, where we really can improve what's been going on. My biggest concern, like I said, is money. But now we're in a time where young people are getting involved, where young people are forming opinions for good reason, because so much discussion is happening on both sides. So much argument basically is happening on both sides. So even though I'm concerned with the fact of a lot of what's happening, I'm looking forward to what may come of it.
And the last question I ask is kind of a game, right? Where you finish the sentence. Politics in the United States, blank, you finish that. Politics in the United States.
It's still the greatest system in the world. We have free elections, we have open, free speech, freedom of speech, and debate is the greatest thing of all. People disagreeing and then ultimately sometimes coming to an agreement or continuing to disagree. It still is the best system in the world. It's not perfect, it's got a lot of flaws. It's being questioned all the time now more than ever, but it's still the greatest system in the world and probably going to get a lot better from this.
Right on. So you see, we've done these three questions. I was just listening in, hearing the different things that you were saying. In this case, I'm not disagreeing with you. So I'm not feeling like any sense of there's a confrontation or an argument in the making, because I agree with a lot of things that you said. At the end, I asked people to give me one word, though, that kind of brings it all together. What word would you use? If you
Hope.
could only put one word out there.
Hope.
Hope. Damn, man, that one, that's a major one. Hope. So I've been doing like hundreds and hundreds of these, and hope comes up over and over, regardless if it's left or right, which I love, right? Regardless of where people are on this political spectrum, hope is way up there. So is division, by the way.
Well, yeah, but from division comes hope.
Yeah, by that exchange, by also the engagement that you were talking about, by having debate, right? Being able to put forth one's views. But that only happens when the other person's listening, right? And I argue that when we're online, there's not much room for listening, because it's not made for that, right? It's made for our engagement. The algorithm's there to get our attention and to outrage us if possible, so we can have more eyeballs on the screen. But in person, even like what we're doing here and with your listeners, we're using other senses, right? And the algorithm is more basic, I gotta say. It's just yours and mine. But there's some commonalities, so there's some threads there, right? So when you said hope, right? I find that to be the strongest. The strongest word is the one that people say at the end. They go through this process from describing the political system in the United States, then more their reactions, and then they're left with like this more abstract thing at the end where they have to finish the sentence, and then they got to get to the hardest one, which you just got right out there, which is hope. But for some people, that lasts, like in my recordings, man, I could have like a minute of silence or longer. Oh, hear the birds chirping in the back or whatever, because I'm at a national park. But they can't get that word because they're really, which one is it? Is this one or that one? And so let's say they said division, right? They'll go off afterwards on a hike, because I'm in a national park, most likely go for a walk, go check something out. And if I see them later during the day, often they come back and they go, David, it's not division anymore. It's hope, or whatever it is. That word, it changes with time. And they're actually, and I love it because for several hours they've been thinking about it, probably talking to friends and family about what these questions were. Should we be talking to one another? What's the point of talking to strangers? What do we do with this? Should I be talking to Uncle Bob at Thanksgiving? Should I use those questions with him or whatever? And creating bridges. Those things happen and it's evolving. So hope's a strong one, but maybe later it'll be a different one, that be cohesion or whatever it is. It changes with time. And that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in that bridge. And it's not a bridge usually, like if you were I don't know if you were an anarcho-capitalist and you had a very different view of how society should be led and about politics in general and how our constitutional government might be better if it were a monarchy, for example. You would the thing that we'd have in common, right? My bridge might not be about anything that person has said. If it's a racist speech that they gave me, then I wouldn't have much to agree with them. I wouldn't have anything to agree with them there. But then there's a word. There's usually like an emotion where they'll say they're angry, they're confused. That one right there, that's something I can bridge with. I can say, you know what? I disagree with everything that you said, except you said you were angry, you said you were confused. And me, I am as well. So right there, I've got a bridge, right? And we can start with that. And that's how all these became this non-confrontational. And it's just very simple. It's a very simple message that people resonate with, and then they go off and do their own thing with, and that's enough for me at this stage that we're in, with people not wanting to talk about taboo subjects. Our eyeballs are on digital screens all the time, and we're spending less time engaged with other people in person. Just reminding people of the basic and civility of conversation is a win for me. And I think that's what you do as well, right there on your program.
Absolutely, very much so. It's all we do is exactly what you do, just right here from the luxury of being able to work from home. But I would love the luxury of traveling, and that's one of the things that not necessarily the whole world, but like you said, and on a national level, to get out there and talk to people. And it's just, but when you think about what's going on right now, so much discussion is happening that so much good could come out of it. Just what you're doing, just what I'm doing, just what so many other people are doing. I was just talking to somebody about digital democracy. I was just talking to somebody about the independent voters, that he's building a momentum from independent voters. All this that's happening is going to really change. The politics has been set in stone for our whole existence. And now we're breaking the mold in so many ways. And Donald Trump's very much a part of that. He's the guy that swings the bat harder. So harder than anybody, he's the Reggie Jackson of baseball. He swings the bat, he hits a lot of strikes, but he also hits some home runs. I mean, Reggie Jackson probably averaged better home run average than Donald Trump, but the truth is, so one of the things I talked to somebody about, and it's just open discussion, is psychedelic therapy. She had this traumatic experience in her life, and psychedelic therapy helped her. And there's this openness, right? And there's this chance now with this president, maybe he'll sign an executive order to allow more research in psychedelic therapy. And
That's
that would
coming up.
be beautiful. I just
Yeah.
read, not even coming from her or her interview, I went on looking for some research. Does it help people with Parkinson's? And there has been some evidence that it really makes a significant, it doesn't cure it, but it makes a significant difference in their day. But the fact of the matter is that we haven't discussed it over the years, but now we are discussing things in an open forum. So that's where my hope comes from, is the open minds and the young people getting involved in all this. Let's say, for example, if I asked you your questions, I'm gonna have trouble repeating them verbatim, but so you may be able to, what would your answers be?
Oh man, they would be changing daily for sure, right? So how would I describe? Well, the first one, how would you describe the political system? I mean, I've had practice for sure, but I would go, how would you describe the political system in the United States of America? Some people at that point would say broken, right? Because that's the first thing emotionally is coming through. I would describe it as a republic based on three levels of government and things of that nature, representative democracy, talk about electoral college and stuff like that. But my heart's not in it, right? It's pretty dry, right? My heart's going to be in the emotions, like broken, chaotic. Those things are, I'd feel more passionate in those. And I think that's where we have to reflect on those. It's like, hey, is that my echo chamber? That's how I see it, right? Maybe those psychedelics would help to like
And that's
hold
not,
my
you laugh, but you know what? Maybe
no,
they
but no, I'm serious. I'm serious. No, I'm serious. I prefer on serious subjects. I like to put a smile on them
oh,
because
absolutely.
yeah, because how do you? Okay, that's one of the things I experiment. Right, it's like I put out this. I'll describe an art installation. One of it is about getting out. How do you get out of your box, your worldview, your echo chamber, and to explore somebody else's? I will put a museum style stand, right, that you'll like see in a museum. And there's a glass box on the top and a statue inside, right? And I'll put something really weird inside of that box, right? People come up with, what is that? And I'll tell them I'm not as concerned as what's inside of the box. I could put a rock in there and a Coke bottle in there or anything. It's the case that I'm interested in. And I see that and I tell them, like, inside there, that's a representation of me, of you, of just somebody. And around it, that's my worldview. It's our worldview. And it's often much smaller than we think it is. When we're inside looking out, it looks expansive. Imagine I do that on the Grand Canyon, on the rim, right? And it's like, wow, this is a big view. I'm inside looking out. My worldview is huge. But actually, it's much smaller than we think it is, right? And then I'll pull out another like a glass jar, like a spice jar. It has a little Lego guy inside. Unfortunately, I can't, to fit him inside, he's doing this. He has his arm out. He's doing this Heil Hitler inside, and I lock him up, and I put the cap on it, and I say, "Hey, and look at this guy inside of here. He's even in a smaller echo chamber." My question is, how does one enter the other echo chamber, right? How do they share worldviews? Is it flexible? Is it hard? Is it rigid? And people like go off in this other space, starting to think about that. Right? They're starting to think, oh, do I have an echo chamber? Am I in an echo chamber? I have a worldview? I have filters or all this stuff that David's talking about? And yeah, how does one enter the other one, or even should they? Right. And to me, that's like psychedelics, right?
Right.
That's
Without the psychedelics.
right. This
Right.
one's for everyone.
So let me throw this out there. What did you do in K through 12 education? Were you the creative kid?
I was the rebel. I was the rebel in
Always the rebel,
education.
right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was the rebel breaking things. Yeah, not agreeing to the rules that were being imposed on me to my detriment
Not
because I didn't learn
necessarily, because
much.
that's where I'm leading to. What was your
Mm.
K through 12 education experience? Was it the standard education?
Oh, really? I was born in the United States, but I was raised in France. So at the age of 7, I arrived with my divorced mom, and we arrived in Paris. And I did not hardly speak a word of French, and I was straight into the public school system. And so all my friends were immigrants from war-torn areas. I wasn't. I was from the U.S., but they were my friends, and we were trying to understand the language. And after a few years, we got there, but the system seemed very rigid to me, and it lacked opportunity in a sense. And yeah, as most schools are, and in my view, they should be expansive. And so yeah, I went from one school to the other for sure. But travel was my greatest class, if you want, of traveling alone, being in Europe. At the age of 14, my mom sent me to Spain to learn Spanish, but I hitchhiked. I met tons of people, saw things that I'd never seen before, how people lived, jobs, artistic expressions, and that opened my box.
Right.
Made
And
it-
that's kind of like Steve Jobs' story. He didn't do well in college, but he went into an art class. He went into a calligraphy class. My point is, a lot of kids really don't
Mm.
belong in the standard system. Some of them belong in Montessori, some of them, but we don't ever explore all these options. But you were able to prevail because of all your experiences. You became the person you want to be because of all those great experiences. I just want to see more kids not leave their first experience in life frustrated. More kids leave their K through 12 experience with an open mind to explore. And that's a beautiful thing that you were
Mm.
able to experience. And it seems like you have a sense of inner peace in your life too, whereas some people never get that sense of inner peace.
Well, thanks for saying that. I'm still working on that part. I gotta say,
Well, I
this
am
this
too, but
yeah, it's a journey. But this last project, like listening, actively listening, using all my senses to listen to somebody that may trigger me, saying things that I find objectionable, that's been a really big journey for me, right? I'm finding a lot more peace now, where I found enormous like outrage and hate for some of the things that are happening in the country, for the way our politics are being more divisive, the role of media and all that stuff. It really just drew me down, and I'd make artwork about it, and it was pretty angry stuff. And when I decided to go out of my anonymity and be their face with others, that's when things really started to change. First of all, I had to think like, oh, I'm not able to listen to this person because I'm getting triggered every sentence by something that they said. And I had to find ways to bring that tension down so I could listen in and be there, because I am looking for a bridge. And what I had to find are my own methods and ways to not get triggered, which are unconventional, certainly, but work well for me. And I'll explain one of them, for example. So if you're supposed to actively listen, you're supposed to use all your senses, right? Okay. So taste and smell get a little bit awkward when you're listening to someone, right? You're not gonna lick their face or something to taste them, right? I don't know what that's. You might smell them. That's okay, and that's part of it. But taste was a difficult one. So that last word, when you had hope, for example, so I ended up with hundreds of these words. So I then took all the words in chronological order, went to a public space, and then started asking the public, tell me what chaos tastes like. Then, so, the next word, let's say, was hope. What does hope taste like? And people come up with, oh, that's really an odd place. But that immediately takes you to a place where you're thinking in an abstract, subjective manner. So now when I hear somebody say something that triggers me, I ask myself really quickly, like, what does that taste like? And then it's like, oh, that's a shit pie, and I'm done. And then I'm like back in. It's like, because I don't want to think anymore about a shit pie or blueberry pie or whatever, because it's not part of this conversation. So I'm back in. I'll have time later to think about why that association took place. But right then and there, that allows me to get back in. I see it as an act of civility, not just for my own transformation, but also an act of civility, because I'm seeing that this foundation that we're told is crumbling might have a lot of fissures and cracks in it, but we have a very good chance from below of consolidating our civic body, right? By doing things like what you're doing, the podcast or my artwork, or people that bring people around a dinner table to have conversations with people with different points of view. And it's a counterforce. It's a democratic counterforce that we have at our disposal. It's many times during the week. That's comes up more often than a vote, right? And I'm not going to say it's more powerful than a vote, but we can exercise it more often, and it feels good. So that's where I'm at, right? From that anger into being more at peace, while the whole thing seems to be collapsing around me. I'm actually finding more peace now than I did when things were actually more stable.
Well, I
If
make
they
a
ever
conscious
were.
effort to not get it triggered. And
Yeah.
nobody really has triggered me on this podcast in the last year and a half, because I get the greatest guests ever. And they make the greatest points ever. And whether I agree with them or not, they're great points. So then we come to the conclusion there is no one size fits all solution, which is where we're at with both parties. They both have this one size fits all solution. They're going to do it their way and we're going to love it. The reality is, for till recently, they've done it their way, and we haven't loved it. We haven't even liked it. And it's been a giant shit pie, as you would say. But now we're at a point in time where we're questioning every single bit of it. And then comes the outrage. And then comes the triggering, the violent outrage at times. Sometimes people can fight over opinions, when in fact there's nothing to fight about. You can walk away and still have your same opinion. It's not like you're fighting. If you don't take my opinion back, I can't have it no more. So, but we're doing just that and what I'm trying to say is we should be doing that with children too, not necessarily about politics. We should be doing that with children. We should open our minds about education. What does chaos taste like? What does it smell like? What if that kid tells you it tastes like smoke and it smells like a crack pipe? Well, then he's living in a shitstorm of a house where that's going on every day. But how do we help him? How do we not send them off out of this K through 12 education system angry and hateful, starving, because generally they're children that suffer from food insecurity when they're living in those quarters? And then what would be the return on investment? What would be the dividend? Will we have less criminals? Will we have less recidivism? Will we have less? That's where I'm always saying, our education system, our churches need to embrace children and do the things you're doing. Not necessarily just conveying them a spiritual message, but a message of what's going on in your life. How do you feel about this? Asking those questions. Have art in the church halls and look at that art. And just like you said, when you have that that image
Installation.
and it's
Yeah.
in that glass box. And can these two forces join? Maybe not. Maybe a fish and a bird can never live together.
Yeah.
But you know what? Who knows? Maybe they won't live together, but they could love each other from afar. But it's just a really, whenever I read about you and interviewing you, I said, wow, this is really cool what he does. And
Well,
I,
I'll show something else for you on education, because that's one I haven't really shared on podcasts, because I find that really it resonates what you're talking about right here. So at the time of when COVID was happening, we didn't in New Mexico, we had very few teachers. There were like the kids needed teachers, and some of the schools were opening up. So they were going to bring in the National Guard to fill in those spaces. I'm like, oh, come on, I can do this, right? So I became a substitute teacher. And since then, I've been going in occasionally to the classroom to fill in the gap, right, where it's needed. And I've went with now sometimes you're not given a lesson plan or anything. You're just supposed to just basically babysit. But I think that's just a wasted opportunity. So I always make it a point to share a story, because I think stories are super, super strong. And I give them the story of, you and your listeners might be familiar with Plato's story of the cave. It's very much similar to what's in the Matrix, if you want. It's a 2,500-year-old story. I'll do it really quick in a few minutes, right? A guy's in a cave. He's in the back of a wall. He's changed since birth at the neck and at the ankles, and he can't move. All he can see is this wall. And on the wall, there's these shadows. And he looks at the shadows on this wall and in the back of a cave, and it's like that's his reality. Everything seems real. I'm making this short. And then we imagine Plato asks us, as the philosopher, Greek philosopher, 2,500 years ago, says, "Listen, let's imagine that the prisoner gets freed of his shackles." So there's this whole thing where the prisoner all of a sudden turns around and sees, oh, man, it's dark in here, and then sees a light in the middle of the cave, and goes towards the light, and it's a fire. And in front of the fire, there's these puppet masters that are putting these cutouts in front of the fire that project an image on the wall. And that's a point where he realizes, oh, let's say there's an algorithm. There's people manipulating what I've been looking on the wall here, and I thought it was reality, but actually it's made up by other people, right? Just like breaking out of the echo chamber. The story moves on. I have the kids like walk around the room, explore the classroom if it were like a cave, for example, and what would be the things that they find interesting in this new discovered area. And then afterwards, they go a little bit further, and towards the exit of or a window or the exit door of the classroom, I go over there and I say, and then the prisoner sees an exit, another light, very faint light, goes outside of the cave and sees daylight for the first time. First sees shadow, and the shadow moves with the prisoner's movement, which is super interesting. Like cause and effect happens, right? It's not the flickering of another person putting cutouts in front of a fire. That person's like free. And they see there's a little stream going by, and in the stream they see the little flickering inside of in the water with variations. Looks it's a little bit higher, and there's a tree, and the leaves are moving as well, and that can be interpreted as like art, seeing the muse and variation and subtlety of things. And then looks up at the top, and hopefully wearing glasses, sees the sun, and apparently like, oh, that's the source of all shadow and the light, and everybody can interpret that in different ways. And then the prisoner that sees this person walking by, it's a philosopher, could be Plato, and the prisoner says, "Hey, who the heck are you?" And then the guy in this toga says, "Well, up here we're just kings, queens, and philosophers. We think about things. We ask ourselves questions." And the prisoner thinks, "Oh, okay, that's whatever, man. You know what? I just realized there's tons of my friends and family that are down there in the cave, also facing the wall." Goes down, goes back in the cave, goes past the fire, goes back to the wall, and says, "Hey, guys, this is all just an illusion, right? In this cave, the images that you see, they're made from people in the back. They're puppet masters. They have cutouts and all this stuff. And there's people outside and blah blah blah." And the people in the cave say, "Oh, shut up, you idiot! You're talking nonsense. You're crazy." And the prisoner thinks to himself at that point, "I'd rather be a student or a servant to the kings and queens above that are asking themselves questions and listen to them and learn than be a king among all the prisoners." And so that's Plato's allegory of the cave, or story of the cave, with according to David Deighton and his Triptych Dialogue project. And
But
I've
you know
been,
what?
yeah,
That was
that's a cool story.
yeah, it's a great story. And then
Mm,
like you call tutoring can substituting can be a
mm,
missed opportunity for kids when in fact it
yeah.
could be a growing opportunity. If
Yes.
we got more David Daytons to do substituting teaching, and there's all kinds substitute teachers work hard, but some come in just for the hourly wage and say, okay,
Mm,
y'all need to sit, y'all need to be quiet. 'Cause she doesn't know the teacher's project schedule. She doesn't
mm,
even know what the teacher was teaching, or she may not even know how to teach it, even if she knew it.
mm,
But whereas if we just create this open-minded thinking in schools where we get creative people to do substitute teaching, to not say let's reinvent the entire K through 12 curriculum, but during substitute teaching scenarios, we get creative people like David to teach them about Plato, to teach them about Shakespeare, possibly to
mm,
encourage them to learn about the arts. How much would that open children's minds? How much would that? How many children, because there's this old algorithm that if you touch the hearts of 10 people and they touch the hearts of 10 people, in over time, you're going to touch the hearts of billions of people. And that's what we need more and more and more of. And we're in a time where that could just happen. That could happen more. And that's what I do on my podcast. That's what you do with your artwork, traveling.
mm, mm,
I just think I think it's a big part of what's going to make society better. But there are those people who don't want society to be better. There are those people that have a stake in seeing that there's this petri dish of bringing up the underclass and keeping them the underclass, of growing the underclass and keeping all that growth. And I just
mm,
want to see more of an open mindedness. That's why I
mm.
loved when I looked at your interview. I said, I got to talk to this guy. I got to
No,
know
no.
what's on his mind. And
It's about engagement, right?
that
It's about
engagement, I love it.
engagement.
And so is
Yeah.
Montessori school. But
Hmm.
not every kid's going to want to go to Montessori. Not every kid's going to need Montessori. Many kids prosper in the standard system with the, but even those kids that have no issues in the whole entire case get to algebra and they just ace it. Get to trigonometry and it's just like, this is easy. Even those kids could use a David in their life a couple of days during their school year, or over the course of a school year, 30 days, over the course of a school, K through 12 school, 30 days of that open-minded guy teaching us about Shakespeare, teaching Plato was your example, but teaching us about the arts, teaching us about theater, teaching us about that I forget how they call it, but that kind of reading and knowledge that you do when you dig deep into Plato and
But
Shakespeare.
we can all do that, right? We all do that. We just, because that's the thing, right? I think we're socialized these days to think that we're disempowered, that we don't have any power because things are so much bigger than are above us, that we cannot have any influence on our political system and on society. But it's the small things, like you said, reverberate all the way through. But we have to engage, and there's an element, I think, of pain in there, right? For some of us, that, for example, that first podcast or your first public speaking event might be difficult to do if you don't have any training in it or any experience in it. And that's the first obstacle, right? For me, it was the pain, if you want, was in going out there and having to talk to people. What's the point of this? But I'm going to experiment because I'm curious. And 6 years later, here I am, uh, and it's a lot easier. When the conversations might come up, even at a gas station with somebody's T-shirt, and it's an invitation and opportunity to engage with others and to find opportunities wherever they lay. I didn't when I first substitute when I was going out to substitute teach. I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to talk about Plato's allegory of the cave. But it came to me with from the silence that was happening in there. It's like, well, let's find engagement, and we all have different things that we want to share. And but one of the greatest things we could all do, to me, is rather than the classroom where we're lecturing in a sense, is to try to find opportunities where we can listen and ask questions and hear their answers. The kids need to be validated. They need to be heard. So that's when I asked them, like, sometimes they don't want to say it in front of the rest of the class. So a little bit later, I'll come in and I'll lean in and say, hey, what do you think? Right. And they have a lot to say, but they didn't want to say it in front of the class. And those are all moments that we have that are available to us. I like to argue that the time we spend on our digital devices should be at least balanced with an equal amount of time interacting with real humans in person. And we might not get that from our loved ones, right? Because they're busy and doing other stuff, which is cool. We get the space from that. But also, we have time with strangers and creating new connections. And that is a political act, because that's another issue. I find all of our acts with intention are art, as well as has a political influence as well. I don't really differentiate in my mind politics from art, as long as there is intention
or life,
or life. Yeah.
art, or life, or reality, or growing as a person.
Yeah. It's that intent, right? It's taking the chance, it's taking a risk, and with a little bit of pain, putting it out there, engaging with intention, and keep on going. And that has a great effect. And then we can go vote on Tuesday.
David, this has been incredible. I am so excited you took the time to talk to me, because it's really been mind-opening. It's really opened my mind. I love creative people. I feel like I'm a creative person, but a little less than some. And I really love what you just said, what you do. I love what you do. You got to keep doing it. Just like you've been doing it for 6 years. I've been doing the podcast. I mean, I'm probably older than you. So I probably got another 6 to 10 years, but that's but this,
Go.
that's what I'm gonna do. I'm never gonna stop. I love it. When I started, I realized how much I liked it, and I feel like I'm getting better at it. So I'm happy. And just like you said, it was awkward in the. I think you said essentially it was awkward.
Yeah. I call it pain, but yeah, that's what it is, right? It's awkward.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the practice.
Yeah,
Gotta practice
now
it.
I'm ready to flow, and I'm not. I don't
Right.
get triggered. I'm done with that. I'm okay. I love your opinions.
Wow, that is amazing. That is amazing. I think that's a goal mark that the listeners can take as well. Maybe they've already there and move beyond it. Yeah, not getting triggered doesn't mean you don't have your heart in it, right?
No, not at all. I
Yeah.
do have my heart in it. And I want everybody to come back. And I don't want them to feel threatened that I'm going to lose my mind. And I'm not. I'm learning. I'm always learning. I won't. I can make that promise. I'll never.
Because you're young, because you got curiosity.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
God, I wish I was gone.
The body might be doing something else, but the mind's like still
mind's
curious
still
and you're still young.
Yeah, thank God. Thank God for that. Well,
Oh,
David
man.
Deighton, you've been incredible. A teacher, a traveler, an educator, an artist. I love it. And an entrepreneur. What is the entrepreneurship? Is it travel or?
Well, I had an art business that I started from scratch over 25 years ago, selling antiquarian artwork on paper, going back 500 years to the present. I was fascinated by the political connections between the messages that were inside of this artwork. And I turned that into a business. I was the educator. We talked about it as a father. My daughter was homeschooled and world schooled, actually. We'd travel around the world and she would learn along the way. But you know what? One day she wanted to go to a real school. She wanted to go to a proper school, she said. and that's where she is now. And so that's part of her journey. So she's had that homeschooled experience, and now she's inside of an institution, but she is exercising critical thinking and taking the positive aspects of it rather than seeing the negative ones that I saw when I was in school. So that's her personal journey. Good on her.
Yeah. We want what's better. We want our kids to do better than us. That's for sure. For certain. My kids to do better.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, David. It's been incredible. I look forward.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. It's been incredible. Thank you so much, David. We'll do it again. I'll keep in touch.
I'm on my way to Mount Rushmore. I expect things to happen up there.
You should when you get there, email me. Boy, we can do it straight from Mount Rushmore.
Woo!
Are you really heading out there?
Yeah, I'm planning on it. Yeah, I got to buy a big American flag, and because it's not just the monument there. There's a lot. The demographic of people that go there too. So I'm gonna explore that and get some hikes in.
We're gonna talk soon.
All right, sounds good. Take care.
Take care, sir.